He's still the executive director, but not for the NHL Players Association. Paul Kelly now runs College Hockey Incorporated, and he plans on raising the profile of college hockey and to recruit hockey players to play collegiately. I spoke with Paul Kelly to find out exactly how he plans on doing this. Let's talk a little bit about the idea of promoting college hockey to high school students. You want to get them involved to get into college hockey. How would you do that?
Well, if you're talking about the elite kid, the kid who at age 14, 15, it's real clear that this is a specially talented, highly skilled kid who may have a shot one day of playing in the National Hockey League, because that's really what we're talking about here. The kids that are good enough to play Division I hockey for a BC or a BU or a Denver, those kids, they're being actively recruited by these major junior programs. And because the player pool in Canada is starting to shrink, those teams are coming south of the border and are trying to attract American kids. In approaching these kids and their families, we're not advocating for any specific school or program. We're out there just talking about the benefits of NCAA hockey as opposed to major junior. And some of the things we touch on are, first and foremost, you've got to have that education. The college hockey offers the best of both worlds. It's a chance to develop as a player, to keep your aspirations for the NHL alive while getting that education and that foundation for life. Because if you don't make it in professional hockey, and 9 out of 10 guys, even at the elite level, don't actually ever make it and even play a single game in the National Hockey League, you need something to fall back on. and that education is so critical. And when you go play major junior, you're basically opting to play hockey as opposed to getting an education, and you're leaving your education behind. NCAA hockey, 84% of kids that play NCAA hockey go on to get diplomas, where only 18%, I believe, and that might be high, it might be as low as 14%, of kids that play major junior actually get a diploma one day. So there's a vast difference there. The second thing we talk about is the tradition of the colleges here, playing in a big-time sports program in the United States. It's the level of play. When you're playing in NCAA college hockey, you're basically playing against players who are between the ages of 18 and 23. They're big, strong, fast guys. It's not like in major junior where you might be an 18 or 19-year-old and you could be playing against 16, 17-year-olds. So you're actually playing against smaller guys. You're probably going to dominate. It's not challenging you enough. College hockey is a tougher game. It's a more physical game. It better prepares players for the NHL. And then lastly, we talk about, I could go on, but the last key point I talk about is the schedule. Major junior plays 75 games a year with very little time for practice and skill development. They spend a lot of time on buses running across Canada. In college hockey, basically the teams are playing about 40 to 50 games a year, 45 games or so being the average. That allows more time for practice, skill development, along with some very dedicated and experienced college coaching staffs and training staffs. They can do physical strength conditioning and endurance training. And it not only better prepares a kid emotionally, educationally, but it does physically and developmentally as well. So we think for a whole host of reasons, for the elite player, college hockey is certainly the preferred option.
Boston University coach Jack Parker, he said that the Canadian junior hockey leagues push propaganda. What kind of propaganda are they kind of saying out there?
Well, the one thing that troubles me about the message that they send to young players is they keep talking about their so-called scholarship program. And if you go on the website for the Ontario Hockey League, which is one of the 3 major Canadian leagues up there, their motto is the best of both worlds. The problem is what they're trying to say there is that they offer hockey and they also offer education, but the facts don't bear it out. The way it works in Canada is that for every year that a kid plays major junior hockey, they claim to offer a year of scholarship money for that player. The reality is that what they describe as a scholarship is very different than what we here in the United States understand to be a scholarship. I mean, if you take the Division I programs, there are roughly 60 schools, and most of them have 18 scholarships per year to give to hockey. I believe that the NCAA college programs are giving out about $30 million a year in scholarship money. Last year, the Canadian Hockey League claims that it gave something just over $4 million in scholarship money. I question that amount, but a lot of that amount is for high school programs, taking a night class here or there. It's not kids going to a full-fledged, Division I program. The problem is when you go play Major Junior, if you're a 16, 17-year-old, you're in high school for those 2 years. If you're an 18, 19, 20-year-old, statistically, most of those guys who are still playing on their Major Junior teams aren't going to college at the same time. So what it means is if you go play Major Junior for 2 or 3 years, they expect you to then go back to school after you've been away from school for 2 or 3 years. And the reality is that it's very hard once you leave the academic environment to go back to it. Kids that are away from school for a couple of years don't tend to go back. The rare kid does. And that's why the rates of kids who get an education and get a diploma in Canada is so low. As I said, it's around 14%. And, so that's less than 2 out of every 10 kids, as opposed to, here in the United States, it's 84%. So it's almost 9 out of every 10 kids.
I know that you've met already with Gary Bettman, the commissioner of the NHL. How could the NHL help promote the goals of College Hockey Incorporated?
Well, the NHL already is working with us very closely. We've got a very good relationship with the people down in New York. In fact, we'll be going down to New York in the next couple of days to talk further about engaging in some television coordination and some sponsorship. One example recently is, of course, the Fenway Park game here. We had the Winter Classic at Fenway Park between the Bruins and the Flyers, and then the NHL agreed to keep the rink in place and keep a staff in place so that we could, a week later, play a game between Boston University and Boston College in front of 40,000 people. The NHL is committed to each year that they run the Winter Classic to having a college component to it. That's an important piece. I think the NHL Network has committed itself to broadcasting more college games and events. I think the NHL's website is beginning to do more and more with reporting not just on college scores, but on different stories coming out of the college ranks. And it makes sense. I mean, you've got 24 of the 30 NHL teams are based here in the United States. A strong NCAA college hockey program helps the NHL. If we can build up college teams in some of the areas down in the South and in the non-traditional hockey markets, that's just going to strengthen and broaden the fan base for the NHL. So it makes perfect sense that we should be working closely with the National Hockey League, and we're trying to do that.
This is the first office for College Hockey Incorporated. Will there be more offices across the country in time?
I don't know about physical offices, but we will have representatives, employees working with us, probably one in the central part of the country, in the Chicago or the Detroit area. We'll certainly have one on the West Coast. I mean, the West Coast is a big focus area for us because we have no college teams playing college hockey in the state of California, and that's a big problem for us. We've got 3 NHL teams out there, and the Canadian teams are coming down into California, and they are picking a disproportionate number of those California kids and recruiting them to play hockey. So we need a presence out there in Los Angeles or San Jose, and we will have that. We'll probably also establish a presence up in Canada, one in Western Canada, either in Vancouver or Calgary, and then probably in the Toronto or Ottawa areas as well.
Do you think it was important to have an office in Boston because of the local talent that is produced around here, as well as the talent that gets drawn to the universities?
Yeah, I mean, we were in thinking about where we wanted to be based. We wanted to be based where there was a strong college hockey presence, and there is really, frankly, no greater place than Boston. I mean, you can go from this office 10 minutes in any direction and hit BC or BU or Harvard or Northeastern, or you can go down the road to Providence or out to Holy Cross. So, I mean, we are in a hotbed of college hockey. Not that there aren't out in Detroit and in Minnesota and in Colorado Springs, but this is certainly one of the great areas for college hockey, so it was a natural fit for us.